بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. Okay, so it says صفة وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وصفة ما أمر به. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال أخبرنا عبد الرزاق أي صنعاني قال أخبرنا معمر بن راشد عن الزهري عن عطاء ابن يزيد الليثي عن حمران بن عبان قال رأيت عثمان رضي الله عنه توضأ فأفرغ على يديه ثلاثا فغسلهما ثم مضمض واستنثر ثلاثا ثم غسل وجهه ثلاثا ثم غسل يده اليمنى إلى المرفق ثلاثا ثم اليسرى مثل ذلك ثم مسح برأسه. Notice it doesn't say ثلاثا. ثم غسل قدمه اليمنى ثلاثا ثم اليسرى مثل ذلك ثم قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ نحو يعني مثل وضوء هذا ثم قال من توضأ وضوء هذا ثم صلى ركعتين لا يحدث نفسه فيهما غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Right? So obviously it's kind of clear what's happening here. Just the Shafi'is, we say it is sunnah to wipe your head 3 times. Why do we say that? We say that because it comes in certain ahadith, right? But the majority of ahadith do not mention that. They mention just doing it once. And that is the ikhtiyar of Muhammad ibn Nasr al-Marwazi of the Shafi'is. And it's positioned of the majority of scholars. That's just done once. Now, here's a question. Imagine if Uthman didn't say anything at the end of it. All right, what kind of hadith? This is a hadith that's marfu', of course, right? And then he said the Prophet ﷺ made wudu like this. So he demonstrated, and then he quoted the Prophet ﷺ. So if Uthman ibn Affan did not quote the Prophet ﷺ at the end of it, how would it be different?
It will be his actions, not the Prophet.
Okay. So it would be his actions. So what would it mean to you? Would it be a dalil of how you should make wudu?
No.
So what Sayyidina Uthman does is not going to be reflective of what the Prophet did.
Well, there's he could have only taken that acts of ibadah from the Prophet. That's what we could say.
Right. So the fact at the end he says this is how the Prophet made wudu, and then he quotes the Prophet, that's extra, that's great. But imagine if he just made wudu like this. All you have is Humran ibn Aban. I think this is his grandson, I think. So Aban ibn Uthman. So I think this is actually his grandson. So Aban ibn Uthman is, so I know. So here's a question. Because our author is a Shafi'i kind of person, he's quoting marfu' hadiths. Because in the Shafi usul, only a marfu' hadith is legislative. Whereas when we look at Imam Muhammad, he will say, and there's many hadith about this, and he quotes all the Sahaba. So if you saw a Sahabi praying, or if you saw a Sahabi making wudu, is that not indicative of how the Prophet prayed or fasted, or made wudu? Right? Isn't the default that every Sahabi is adhering, with his whole being to the Prophet, right? I think that's a fair assumption. So in which case, it's not very representative. It's not a very good representation if you only see marfu' hadiths. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. And so here we have a problem, particularly when we're talking about, for example, how to pray, right? So saying how to pray, and all you're going to do is quote marfu' hadiths. Number one, you're going to be missing things. Number two, it's not going to be a full representation. It's just going to be, so whereas if you had a a fuller representation of describing how the Sahaba and Tabi'een prayed as well, it might be quite useful, right? And so, so the Shafi'is again wouldn't look at it like that, but it's useful to look at it like that. Okay. So then if we treat a mawquf hadith as a marfu hadith, then you can say there's genuine. Whenever there's contradiction, instead of saying, oh, the Sahabi got it wrong, you say, oh, there's more than one narration, so to speak, right? And so looking at the Sahaba's actions as the actions of the Prophet ﷺ is not a ridiculous thing to do. It's not a ridiculous thing to do, right? It's quite a reasonable thing to do, right? And so when you find, for example, many of the Sahaba, so Ibrahim al-Nakhai was asked this question about Raf al-Yadayn, and he's like, yeah, the hadith exists, but I've never seen any of the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud do that. So he's not even looking at Sahabi, he's looking at a Tabi'i. But he's saying, here are the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, they don't do that. So therefore the Prophet ﷺ probably didn't do that. Or maybe he only did it now and then. Something like that, right? That's an approach. The Shafi approach is no, you got to quote the Prophet ﷺ. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because in the Hanafi approach, it's
It's much
Afal
more based on
Sahabi
the
scripture.
amal of the fuqaha. So I'm not just looking
Yeah,
at marfu hadith, nor am I just looking generally at Sahaba and Tabi'een. I'm looking at the great fuqaha of the Sahaba and Tabi'een. Right? It's very specific. So that's why they might sometimes there's a claim for some Hanafis that Abu Hurairah is not a faqih. Like, because he'll quote a hadith and we kind of don't act upon it, and the reason being he's not really a faqih. So it's true. So is he not a faqih? No, he's a faqih. Is he a big faqih? No, right? So it's when you say he's not a faqih, that's a bit of a statement, right? But he's not a big faqih, right? Anas ibn Malik is not a big faqih, right? Sayyidina Bilal, not a big faqih, but Ibn Abbas, yes. Ata ibn Rabah, right? Sa'id ibn Jubair, what's it called? Ibrahim al-Nakhai, al-Aswad, right? These are these big people who are like their fatwa everybody's listening to, right? So it's a very different paradigm. For the Shafi'is, amal means ijma', technically speaking, right? Everybody said this. ثم قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay, and then it says لا يحدث نفسه فيها. This is a really, really important thing. Like, what is the nafs? The nafs is this voice in your head that's talking to you, right? As opposed to talking to Allah. So you have this ruh, its qibla is supposed to be Allah, but it's now directed to itself. So it's talking to itself. Zafar doesn't like me. Zafar does like me. Zafar didn't give me this. Zafar did give me this. Zafar took this away from me. Zafar, like, it's how this whole thing, and it's doing tawaf around itself, or is it supposed to be doing tawaf around Allah? So this is this key thing. And so notice how we like. You can almost say the way that we look at hadith is almost perverted, right? It's almost weird, like because we're talking about narrators and who's Ma'mar ibn Rashid and did he really narrate from him and and they're like, that's not what the Prophet was talking about. The Prophet was talking about washing off sins and then focusing 120% on Allah. That's what he was talking about. That was his message, right? So I'm sure if many of the Sahaba attended our classes, they would find it really weird. They would be like, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Not that they're actually wrong, but it's just the way that the focus, the way that they felt the deen, like what the narrative was, what the focus of it was, what the main discussions were very, very different to the way that we look at things. Right? Well, if they came to kalam, they were like, what is kalam? You know? Even the Salaf, like, what's this? It's like really weird. Right? The ta'alluqat of Allah, ta'alluq tanjizi, ta'alluq, like, what are you talking about? It's weird. It just sounds like strange, you know? You talk about all weird things. Or like, they turn up when we have a Jahili poetry class and they're like, what? We used to turn away from that stuff. You guys teach it? What's your problem? You know? Like it's like imagine somebody's like teaching the sonnets of Dr. Dre. And you're like, what? Like, like what are you talking about? Like, why are you teaching this stuff? We used to turn away from it. We used to try and get it out of our heads. Why are you teaching it? Right? So again, that doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong, but it means that they would just find us really weird. Right? And there's, some of these things are good and some of these things are not good. Right? May Allah protect us. حدثنا إسحاق بن منصور قال أخبرنا عبد الرحمن بن مهدي. Right, this is the great عبد الرحمن المهدي. قال حدثنا زائدة بن قدامة عن خالد بن علقمة الهمداني عن عبد خير قال دخل علي رضي الله عنه الرحبة بعد أن صلى الفجر فجلس في الرحبة. ثم قال لغلام له ائتني بطهور فجاءه الغلام بإناء فيه ماء وطست a pot. قال عبد خير ونحن جلوس ننظر إليه فأخذ بيمينه الإناء فأكفأ على يديه اليسرى ثم غسل كفيه ثم أخذ الإناء بيده اليمنى فأفرغ على يده اليسرى ثم غسل كفيه ثم أخذ بيديه اليمنى الإناء فأفرغ على يده اليسرى ثم غسل كفيه ففعله 3 مرات. قال عبد الخير كل ذلك لا يدخل يده في الإناء. He wasn't putting his hand in the container, just pouring. حتى يغسلها 3 مرات. Right? ثم أدخل يده اليمنى في الإناء فملأ فمه فمضمض واستنشق ونثر بيده اليسرى 3 مرات ثم غسل وجهه 3 مرات ثم غسل يده اليمنى 3 مرات إلى المرفق ثم غسل يده اليسرى 3 مرات إلى المرفق ثم أدخل يده اليمنى في الإناء حتى غمزها الماء ثم رفعها بما حملت من الماء ثم مسحها بيده اليسرى ثم مسح رأسه بيديه جميعا مرة ثم أدخل يده اليمنى في الإناء ثم صب على رجله اليمنى فغسلهما 3 مرات بيده اليسرى ثم صب بيده اليمنى على رجله اليسرى فغسل 3 مرات بيده اليسرى ثم أدخل يده اليمنى في الإناء فملأه من الماء ثم شرب منه. Right? And I remember asking Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya, and I said, are there any forgotten sunnahs? He said, yeah, this is a forgotten sunnah. Right? To drink from the remaining water, right, of the pot. قال هذا طهور نبي الله فمن أحب أن ينظر إلى طهور نبي الله فهذا طهوره. Right? حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا عبد الرزاق قال حدثنا الثوري ومعمر وداود بن قيس وعن زيد بن أسلم عن عطاء بن يسار عن ابن عباس أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ مرة. Right? Just washing each limb once. حدثنا ابن المقرئ قال حدثنا سفيان. Which Sufyan is this? Let's compare where Thawri comes up here and see where he comes here. So a Thawri is his great grandsheikh. Right? حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا عبد الرزاق الصنعاني قال حدثنا الثوري. So الثوري is his great grandsheikh. Here is his grandsheikh. So this is not Sufyan al-Thawri. This is Sufyan ibn Uyayna, right? Because look at the tabaqa, right? So yes, they do narrate, sometimes they narrate from the same person. Sometimes you will find you can't tell the difference. It's true, right? It is muhtamal, it could be either, but generally they're different. It's a different kind of thing, right? عن عمرو بن يحيى عن أبيه عن عبد الله بن زيد قال توضأ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فغسل يديه مرتين ورجليه مرتين ووجهه ثلاثا. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا عبد الله بن صالح بن مسلم العجلي قال حدثنا عبد الرحمن بن ثابت بن ثوبان آه عن عبد الله بن فضل أن الأعرج عن أبي هريرة قال ربما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتوضأ مثنى مثنى. Right, two times, مرتين مرتين, that's what it means. Two by two, مثنى, two by two, that means. جاء الناس مثنى مثنى, two, and then another two, then another two. مثنى وثلاث ورباع means each of you could marry two, or each of you could marry three, or each of you could marry four. That's what it means. حدثنا إسحاق بن منصور قال أخبرنا عبد الرحمن يعني المهدي ابن مهدي قال حدثنا إسرائيل كوفي عن عامر بن شقيق عن شقيق بن سلمة قال رأيت عثمان رضي الله عنه توضأ فغسل كفيه ثلاثة ومضمض واستنشق وغسل وجهه ثلاثة ومسح رأسه وأذنيه ظاهرهما وباطنهما. Notice it mentions it once. وغسل رجليه ثلاثا وخلل أصابعه وخلل لحيته حتى غسل وجهه ثلاثا. So he's changing the order here. Look, the face is coming after the legs, isn't it? No, it's not. It's coming here. He's just adding that at the end, saying that's how he did it. قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فعل كما رأيتموني فعلت. قيل لإسحاق. Oh, we're saying it missed his arms. فغسل كفيه ثلاثا فما Oh, it doesn't even mention his arms. Am I missing something? Yeah, it does mention his arms. So قيل لإسحاق ibn Mansur. Hang on a minute. Where does it say where he washed his arms? ليس فيه غسل ذراعيه قال ما كان عندي أعطيتك. I'm not telling you something. Whatever I heard, this is what I'm telling you. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا أبو غسان قال حدثنا إسرائيل. So there's another chain that goes to إسرائيل بهذا الإسناد فقال فيه وغسل ذراعيه ثلاثا. حدثنا بحر بن نصر عن ابن وهب. Who's Ibn Wahab? Who's in relationship to Imam Malik?
One of his students.
One of his students, right? One of these key students. So the story basically, Ibn Wahab is a student of Layth ibn Sa'ad and a Layth of Malik. And I believe Asad ibn Furat, I believe, double check. The whole story of the Mudawwana starts with him, where they went to him and he's like, I have questions about the Maliki school. Can you answer them? He's like, not really. Go to someone else. Like, I'm not such a Maliki that I'm going to do that. I have my own opinions. I've studied with Layth. I have my own views. So like when you're asking me, I'm not going to give it to you like that. So who do they go to? Eventually, the Mudawwana are all the questions put to Ibn Qasim, Abdul Rahman ibn Qasim, right? So Ibn Qasim is the one who was the bearer of the school, right? But Ibn Wahab, not so much, right? So he's Maliki, yes, but in a looser sense, right? عن يحيى بن عبد الله بن سالم ومالك بن أنس, right? Two people. عن عمرو بن يحيى المازني عن أبيه عن عبد الله بن زيد بن عاصم المازني عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه أفرغ على يديه من الإناء فغسلهما ومضمض واستنثر ثلاثا. Notice they, in the beginning, this is the second hadith, I believe, when they're not putting their hand in the container, they're pouring it out first. وأنه أخذ بيديه ماء فبدأ بمقدم رأسه ثم ذهب بتعدية. He made his two hands go back إلى مؤخر الرأس ثم ردهما إلى مقدمه. Right? So you put them all the way to the back and all the way to the forward. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا أبو المغيرة قال حدثنا حرير بن عثمان قال حدثني عبد الرحمن بن ميسرة الحضرمي قال سمعت المقداد بن معدي كرب قال أوتي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بوضوء. Some water, some wudu water was brought to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. فتوضأ ثلاثا ثم مسح برأسه وأذنيه ظاهرهما وباطنهما. Right. حدثني يعقوب بن إبراهيم الدورقي حدثنا الأشجعي عن سفيان عن سفيان. Which Sufyan is this? عن موسى بن أبي عائشة عن عمرو بن شعيب عن أبيه عن جده. So Malik, so this is Amr ibn Shu'ayb an Abihi and Jaddihi. I believe we've spoken about him before, we've spoken again. It's a 50-50 chain. Okay? So this is a very common chain. Amr ibn Shu'ayb an Abihi and Jaddihi. Right? Who is Jaddihi? Is Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As. Okay? So there's a number of problems with this. So number one, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, Sahabi, fantastic. He wrote a book of hadith. Okay? He wrote a book of hadith. This book was passed father to son, son to grandson. Okay? But there's two problems there. Number one, is this Amr ibn Shu'ayb narrating from Amr's father, from Amr's granddad, right? Or is it Amr ibn Shu'ayb narrating from his father, from his father's granddad? Because if it isn't, then there's a gap in the chain. That's number one. Number two, imagine if you wrote a book, okay? And it was inherited by your son. Who? Your last son. Your last son was born when you were 60. Okay? And you passed away when you were 63. So your son was 3. Okay? And when he was older, he said, oh, by the way, this book that you never seen your dad read is from your dad. In hadith standards, that's interesting but not interesting. So one of the criticisms of Amr ibn Shu'ayb and Abihi and Jaddihi, it is just kitab, mujarrad kitab. Right? It's just a manuscript that's inherited from father to son, and that's it. That's about it, basically. Doesn't mean it's not much more than that. It's not reliable. Right? It's not reliable. So some scholars said it's weak. Some scholars said it's good. Imam Malik narrates it. So Imam Malik narrates. So here I'm thinking this is Sufyan ibn Uyayna, because Malik would be here. Malik narrates from somebody to Amr ibn Shu'ayb an Abihi and Jaddihi. I can't remember who it was. Right? So Malik accepts the chain. Imam Ahmad was asked, what do you think about Amr ibn Shu'ayb and Abihi and Jaddihi? He said, well, Malik accepts it. Malik uses it. Right? So that's a proof. Imam Abu Hanifa as well narrates directly from Amr ibn Shu'ayb and Abihi and Jaddihi because he's older. Right? So Imam Abu Hanifa narrates directly from Amr ibn Shu'ayb and Abihi and Jaddihi, if I remember correctly. Right? Imam Ahmad said something really interesting, which is very, very important. He said it's like 50-50, right? In شئنا نحتج به وإن شئنا لا نحتج به. If we wish to, we use it. If we don't, sometimes. And he says something like وَرُبَّمَا وَجُسَ في القلب منه شيء. Right? I think wajusa, that's the phrase. And just double check. Wajusa, I think it is word. وجس وجس يجس يجس. Yeah. وربما وجس. There's right. You don't feel very happy about it. There's something odd. Okay. Wajasa. So it's not amazing. Okay. So what does it mean then? Is there a hadith, there are chains that are reliable, and there are chains that are not reliable, and chains that are 50-50. Right? Abu Hatim al-Razi would say what? Yuktab hadithuhu wa yunzur fi. Right? We should write his hadith down at least, and we'll see is there backup evidence or not. So the same thing with Amr ibn Shu'ayb and Abihi Jaddihi is this middle line, somewhere between the bottom of Hasan to the beginning of Da'if, where yes, maybe we'll see is the Amal that agrees with it, is the other similar hadiths, etc. Right? So Amr ibn Shu'ayb an Abihi and Jaddihi. And yeah, and so this chain, because it's the structure of a musnad, you're going to find all of these hadiths in the Musnad Ahmad in one place. You have a whole section, the Musnad of, the Musnad of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As is going to be basically his book. You can like reconstruct his book, which is called As-Sahifa As-Sadiqa, right? So Abu Hurairah said, nobody knew more hadith than me, apart from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, because he used to write and I didn't. Right? So it says, أن أعرابيا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فسأله عن الوضوء فتوضأ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثلاثا وقال من زاد فقد أساء وظلم واعتدى وظلم. Whoever does more has done something wrong, he's oppressed himself, he's crossed the line, and he's done something wrong. Don't do that. Don't do more than 3. It's makruh, and it could be haram. حدثنا ابن مقرئ وعبد الرحمن بن بشر قال حدثنا سفيان. Which Sufyan is this? So this one I'm assuming is Sufyan al-Thawri, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, I'm assuming. But this one is definitely
Sufyan Thawri.
Sufyan ibn Uyayna, because it's his grand sheikh, right? How are author's grand sheikh? It's impossible that it's so. Sufyan al-Thawri is where? Where's it's his great grand sheikh? Where's Thawri? Where was he?
It's 4 generations down, right?
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, right? His great so his great grand sheikh, his grand sheikh, his great grand sheikh, right? That's here, the Sufyan al-Thawri, right? So he's going to have at least 2 narrators between him and Thawri. So here, this cannot be the case. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm looking at the chain, and this is a chain. This is exactly what Imam Malik will narrate. So Imam Malik will narrate the self-same hadith. It will be an Abi Zinadi, an al-A'raji, an Abi Hurairah. Classic Imam Malik chain, right? Abu Zinad al-Makki, an al-A'raj, an Abi Hurairah, right? One of the kind of golden chains. So what you'll find is Sufyan ibn Uyayna and Imam Malik will often have exactly the same hadiths. Like it's kind of like, it's almost like different versions of the same book. It's like, okay, it's all the same. It's okay, not a big deal. Or is this Ibn Muqra or is this so-and-so? Like, it's okay. At this level, there's so many people. You could imagine 1,000 people heard this hadith from Sufyan al-Thawri at least. So you could travel throughout any place in the Muslim world, be like, okay, it's not a big deal who these people are. Because everybody knows the hadith that Sufyan narrates from Abu Zinad from an A'raj. Or in fact, we all know the hadith that Abu Zinad narrates from A'raj from Abu Hurairah, right? Because Malik narrates it and Sufyan narrates it and someone else narrates it. And from them, thousands of people have narrated it. So it's spreading, right? Exponentially. Does that make sense? So this is a well-known chain here. Abu Zinad al-Makki, Abu Zinad and not al-Makki. That's Abu Zubayr al-Makki, someone else. This is Abu Zinadi and al-A'raj and Abu Hurairah. Classic Madini chain. أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا توضأ أحدكم فليجعل الماء في أنفه وليستنثر. Right? So the Shafi is going to say, well, the Prophet said, let him do that. So it must be obligatory. We say, yes, it should be obligatory in principle. But the Prophet also told a Bedouin how to make wudu, and he said, make wudu as Allah commanded you, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions what? يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم, your faces, وأيديكم إلى المرافق, your arms, وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. That's it. Does not mention put water in your mouth and nose, or doesn't mention that, right? Imam Ahmad says, no, this is a bayan for how you do the face. Imam Ahmad says, when the Prophet ﷺ told us to do that, he's explaining how to wash the face. When you wash your face, you're also washing your nose and mouth. That's part of washing the face. Does that make sense? So it's not that it's something extra, but it's a bayan for it. It's an explanation of it. This is how you do your face. You do your mouth and nose, right? Albeit it is wajib to do your mouth and nose and fard to do your face in the Hanbali school, right? Different way of looking at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Then he says, حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا أسد بن موسى قال حدثنا ابن أبي ذئب. Right? So this is going to be another hadith. It's probably going to find it in, so Ibn Abi Dhi'b is the contemporary of Imam Malik. Right? عن قارض بن شيبة عن أبي غطفان قال دخلت على ابن عباس فوجدته يتوضأ فمضمض واستنشق ثم قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم استنثروا ثنتين بالغتين أو ثلاثا, right? Twice properly or three. حدثنا علي بن خشرم قال حدثنا عن عيسى عن شعبة بن حجاج عن محمد بن زياد قال كان أبو هريرة يمر بنا والناس يتوضؤون من المطهرة, right, the place where you purify yourself. فسمعته يقول أسبغ الوضوء, make wudu properly, فإني سمعت أبا القاسم صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ويل للأراقيب من النار. الأراقيب جمع أرقوب, وهو الوتر الذي خلف الكعب, the what's it called? The tendon behind the on the back of your foot, the Achilles. Is that Achilles heel? Yeah, that's Achilles heel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the Achilles heel, the أرقوب. Okay. من النار. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا عبد الصمد same hadith. وحدثنا أبو جعفر الدارمي قال حدثنا النضر, presumably جميعا. So حدثنا عبد الصمد and عبد النضر and النضر جميعا عن شعبة. So then he mentioning another chain from شعبة. قال محمد, where's Muhammad? Presumably Abu Ja'far is called Muhammad, I don't know.
It's not Muhammad bin Yahya.
Where's Muhammad bin Yahya?
Above, they say حدثنا bin Yahya.
Oh yeah, sorry. قال محمد بن يحيى, sorry. قال للعقب وقال الآخر للأعقاب, right? So this is a riwayah بالمعنى, they're all the same thing. العقب, الأعقاب, الأراقيب, it's all the same. Right? It's not a major difference. حدثنا الحسن بن محمد الزعفراني قال حدثنا يحيى بن سليم الطائفي قال حدثني إسماعيل بن كثير عن عاصم بن لقيط بن صبرة عن أبيه قلت يا رسول الله أخبرني عن الوضوء قال أسبغ الوضوء وخلل الأصابع وبالغ في الاستنشاق إلا أن تكون صائما. Right? Make wudu properly, right? And do takhleel between your fingers and your toes, etc. And do istinshaq properly, get in lots of water, unless you're fasting. So the Shafi'is will say what? unless you're fasting, meaning it is makruh to do that if you're fasting. And if you then accidentally inhale the water by doing the makruh, your fast will be broken. Right? Because al-nahi yaqtadi al-fasad. Right? So this is something that's makruh. حدثنا ابن المقرئ قال حدثنا سفيان عن الأعمش. Right? So if he's narrating from A'mash from Ibrahim Nakha'i, sounds a lot like Sufyan al-Thawri, right? But I don't think it's Sufyan al-Thawri. This is because it's too close, right? And Sufyan al-Thawri is at the same time as Al-A'mash, I believe. Or, yeah. If you look at the dates, Sufyan, who just joined? Oh, here's Asim. Being surrounded by Hanafis on all sides.
There's Kufan Isnad, right?
Say it again?
There's a Kufan Isnad.
Looks Kufan, yeah. Ibrahim Nakha'i. But I'm just looking at the dates. So Al-A'mash, okay, so he is Al-A'mash is he passes away in 148. So he's the same as Imam Abu Hanifa, right? So Imam Abu Hanifa 150, right? So same as Imam Abu Hanifa. Now Thawri, ten years later. So he is passing away in 161. So it's not impossible that Sufyan narrates from A'mash, okay? Because he is like 10 years younger than him or something like that. But I don't believe, I think this is Sufyan ibn Uyayna because why? As I mentioned, the gap. It's not possible. It's not possible that our author, who is passing away, what, in 3 something, is going to be, his teacher is going to write from somebody who passed away like 150 years before him. You know? It's not possible to cross that gap so easily. So this is Sufyan ibn Uyayna, wallahu alam. From Al-A'mash, from Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, from Hammab ibn Harith, قال رأيت جريرا توضأ من مطهرة ومسح على خفيه قالوا أتمسح على خفيك قال إني رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يفعله قال فكان هذا حديث يعجب أصحاب عبد الله يقولون إنما كان إسلامه بعد نزول المائدة. Right, so they like particularly like this hadith, right? Students, the ashab, the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Why? Right? Because it was narrated after Ma'idah, so it helps us understand Ma'idah. Okay? Inshallah, we'll come back to this. Excuse me, next week. So next week, I don't know what's going to happen with our class, by the way. So lessons are going to be a bit ad hoc for the next few weeks because I'm going to be traveling and I don't know what I can do, what I can't do. And so just, stay tuned basically to the group. It might be fine because it's going to be my Saturday morning, right? Unlike Arsenal, right? It's your morning, right? But it might not be. We'll see. Inshallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.